What's going on, everybody? Okay here, and today we're going to be talking about combo breakers. After the triple whammy, that's Archival Japan and EVO Japan and also the International 3vs3, Guilty Gear tournaments were quiet for a while. Not that there weren't any tournament. There's a Guilty Gear tournament almost every weekend somewhere. For example, Texas Showdown, not surprisingly in Texas, ran the same weekend as the mix-up in France, featuring strong players from both of their individual regions with a bunch of interesting looks at players and characters. But there just haven't been any big shows for a while. Texas Showdown was basically a national-ish level tournament. Numbers-wise, not quite, but they had representatives from West Coast, East Coast, of course again, Texas, where the mix-up had people from UK, France, and various other European countries traveling to Lyon for the tournament. There just hasn't been any big shows for a while, you know what I mean? Until Combo Breaker. So just like last year, Guilty Gear's Drive at Combo Breaker was the main event, topping out at just over 1,000 entrants 2 years in a row. The story last time was focused on Combo Breaker being the final event before Guilty Gear's Drive Season 2 drop. This year was more of an international battle between North America and EMEA, which has been a pretty recurring theme at the largest events in North America. Combo Breaker itself is a very important event in the fighting game community. It is on Memorial Day weekend every year, and many players look at it as a preview of sort of the super major tournament runs, right? Combo Breaker would be the first one, CEO in Daytona, and ending with EVO in Las Vegas. This is reflected in some of the other events. Combo Breaker is a routine stop on the Tekken World Tour, and this year, Combo Breaker was a send-off major, at least from a grassroots perspective, for Street Fighter V, as Street Fighter VI release date was June 2nd, 2023. While it was certainly an important tournament for Guilty Gear Strive, Combo Breaker is always awkwardly timed from an Arc System Works player perspective. It's after the World Tour Finals in March. It's before the Arc World Tour 2023-2024 kickoff in June. So while it's always a very big tournament, obviously winning the tournament is a huge deal. It's a very, very large tournament. As far as like how it affects other things, it doesn't really affect stuff, which is kind of weird. So next, let's talk about what happened in the bracket. As usual, with many brackets of this size, a lot of strong players showed up and a lot of people are aiming for the spot in top 8. So this tournament attracted some strong players of somewhat uncommon characters. So I call these characters bracket ruiners. If you haven't heard this term before, the idea of a bracket ruiner character is a character that is good but is not commonly played. It's not considered meta. So running to them at a large event is a huge battle to overcome, because you definitely don't know as much stuff about their character as they probably do about your character, especially if you use a very commonly used character. So for example, Oni Darkrai, so they call him Gold Lewis's strongest soldier. He had to play FG Marvello's chip really early in the bracket. I mean, like really early in this bracket. In order to run a bracket of this size, right, you have to run it in waves. So pools filter down to top 192, which filters down to top 48, which filters down to top 24, which filters down to top 8. So that's the final spot that everyone is aiming for. Just getting top 48 at a bracket of this size is quite the accomplishment, I would say. You're definitely an extremely strong player if you're making top 48 in a 1,000-man tournament. But once you get that deep, that's where most people expect all the crazy matches to happen, right? But Darkrai versus Marvello, which is honestly, in my opinion, a top 8 quality match by all means, they played very early, like in top 192, which would mean right out of the initial wave of pools. Marvello closed this in a nail-biter set 3-2 to move on. Then of course we have to talk about the Leo army. So every region has their unique character. We talked about how Japan values characters that aren't weighed too highly in North America before, right? We talked about characters like Giovanna and Soul Bad Guy. We're talking about a North American major today, so we have to talk about Leo White Fang. So this character was the most represented character in Combo Breaker top 24, with 5 out of the 24 players playing him. TempestNYC, Razo, MFCR, Zippy, and Aaron the Mac, who's a little special out of the group because he also plays Happy Chaos. Over in North America, we've been saying this character was busted from the jump, man. Honestly, like, if there's something about us, we're like, Leo is too good, and we stick by our guns. That's the go to the game. That being said, the Leo players in attendance mostly played against other NA players, even though the story was kind of set for it to be like North America versus Europe. The only two that really didn't were Zippy and Tempest. Zippy, kind of a newer face to Guilty Gear. This player won Summer Jam actually with Kai, and then switched to Leo later. He had a couple skirmishes with the EMEA players. He took out the UK Biken Bro, the Jojo. He also fell to one of the United Kingdom's strongest soldiers, Tiger Pop in top 24. And as far as Tempest, well, we'll get back to his story later. And speaking of North America versus EMEA, we've seen this actually quite a bit for Guilty Gear Strive, but Combo Breaker had some more representation, at least from a North American perspective, than before. So there were familiar favorites like Leffen and Zondo and Slash, but then the JoJo, who went on a pretty long losers run, and then Tiger Pop, who went on an even longer losers run, are newer faces if you haven't been keeping up with the different regions of Guilty Gear Strive. Despite Combo Breaker not being an official ArcSys World Tour event, it does set up the stage for some new fan favorites to get some shine, which I really enjoyed. As you would expect to, despite the large player pool and some secret bosses appearing, the top 8 was filled with familiar faces. So the character spread goes as follows. So 1 Leo White Fang player, 2 Ramfall players, 2 Happy Chaos players, 1 Mei, 1 Zato, 1 Bridget. The surprise here, though, was the winner's side. Not the players per se, because if I listed the players in the winner's side of the top 8, you wouldn't be surprised. But it's more about the region representation. So with TempestNYC, Zondo, Leffen, and Slash in the winner's side of top 8, Tempest is the only North American player in winners. In the loser's side, there were 3 North American players and 1 EMEA player. Jonathan Tene on the Zato, SQ on the Ram, Tiger Pop, Happy Chaos, and Supernoon Bridget, who dropped Ram. We mentioned this before, he dropped Ram for Bridget, making it a pretty interesting 4 vs 4 split between North America and EMEA. So winner's side, we'll start with Tempest vs Zondo. Zondo clutching it out in a 3-2 victory. So Zondo was visibly stunned at this victory, and it was definitely understood. So not only was Tempest the #1 seed for the tournament, which for a fighting game tournament, a traditional fighting game tournament, being a top seed doesn't actually matter. Being a top 8 seed is what matters. Tempest was the #1 seed. Most people had him as the favorite of the tournament, and he won last year. But also, Leo doesn't really have that much representation in EMEA, so this was a huge hurdle to overcome for Zondo. Next up was Leffen vs Slash, with Leffen cleanly beat the top Mei player 3-0. Mei is looked as one of Happy Chaos's bad matchups. It's actually one I've been experimenting with a little bit myself. A win of this quality is a pretty major statement for Leffen, is what I would say, but honestly, Leffen's been really consistent in this game, man. It really shouldn't surprise anybody that he was adequately prepared for this challenge. Over in losers was a set that, to me, feels pretty common in big tournaments. It's Jonathan Tene Zato versus SQ Ramafall. This match is considered to be cleanly favored from Ramafall, but Jonathan has a knack for clearing these and pushes on to the losers quarters with a 3-0 victory over SQ. Then finally we move to Tiger Pop versus Supernoon. Bridget is another character that's said to do pretty well against Happy Chaos. Tiger Pop hasn't really made an appearance in NA and has a pretty unique approach to Happy Chaos, so it seemed to catch Supernoon off guard by quite a bit, and Tiger Pop won that 3-0. The first battle for 5th place would be Slash versus Jonathan Tene. So, I mean, I might sound like a broken record, but Zato players consider Mei to also be a bad matchup. Specifically, though, Mei is Zato's strongest predator, right? And this one really reflects in this set. So, even though both players are extremely strong in the matchup, and with both of their characters, of course, Slash showed his mastery of the Zato matchup to win it 3-1. So after that set begins the run. So you might remember that Tempest lost to Zondo. Sometimes you have weird stuff at majors where the winner of the tournament might not have played as much as other people just because how much people have played in losers or things like that, right? This was an interesting tournament because Tempest has the most wins of this tournament. And it's really because of this run he's about to go in losers bracket of top 8. So he loses to Zondo and has to play for 5th place. And he pushes through Tiger Pop 3-2 and then Slash 3-1 and then Leffen 3-2 and then beat Zondo twice 3-2, 3-2 to be one of the very few people to have won a large-scale combo breaker event 2 years in a row. If you look at his top 8 only from a character's perspective, you'd be like, oh, well, you know, Leo won, lol, like, surprise. But at this level of play, along with the cast in top 8, it really made for a great entry to EVO season. So what's next for Guilty Gear Strive? So 1, the final character of season 2, Asuka Arcoit, dropped the day before Combo Breaker, so people who couldn't go, like me, were grinding them out quite a bit. Then, I mean, a balance patch is likely. They haven't really talked about anything, but the game released in June 2021 and then had a major overhaul in June 2022, so we're expecting some type of news soon about a big patch, since it feels like we get patches around every 6 months. The last patch we got for Guilty Gear Strive was the season 2.5 patch in December. So again, right now people are kind of eyeing another big patch. Then, of course, EVO season. So for a long time in the fighting game community, Combo Breaker is kind of seen as a kickoff to the summer fighting game. Again, the next events to look at would be CEO and then EVO in Las Vegas. Finally, the ARC World Tour 2023-2024 is starting in June. So this is starting actually like really soon. And it's kicking off in Australia with Battle Arena Melbourne and Head Stomper in Sweden. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that though. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to comment in the section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.